Hi, guys. So today I'm going to be sharing my healing testimony that occurred October 21st, 2023. So it's just been a little over a short 6-month period since then. It's amazing. It still leaves me in awe when I think about it every day. Every day that I get up, every day that I go to bed, and you'll have to excuse me for getting emotional. I'm going to share my beginning of my journey, and then I'm going to read from my journal that I kind of documented and wrote in 2 days after my healing. So I think it's the best thing just to read it, to try to get across in words what exactly happened. Because it's very hard to explain when I get to that part of my story. And I say that because there are just no words in this English language that can convey what happened. I'm going to try my best, and I thought the best way to do that would be to read my little entry, and I'll do that here towards the end. I want to start with the beginning of my journey in 2012. In January of that year, it was right after Christmas, and I'm a nurse, not a practicing nurse, but I was then. I woke up one morning, and my left leg was completely numb. I could barely walk, and I had double vision. So in one eye on my left side, I was seeing everything in doubles, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? I thought, oh my goodness, surely I didn't have a stroke or something. So I was like, well, I got to get to work. So I got ready and put my clothes on best I could, got to work as best I could. Man, I remember that morning like it was yesterday. It was a struggle. I saw my primary care physician that day. I was able to get in and see her, and she thought, she was very calm, cool, and collected, and she was like, well, we better get an MRI. I had a history of migraines. I still do have those. And she's like, I can see what's going on here. And so actually I was blessed to be in the medical field and work where I worked, which was connected to a hospital. So I was able to get in for an MRI by the next, I can't remember if it was a day or two later. I got in, I did that, went back to see my primary care physician a few days after, and sure enough, I had lesions on my brain. So she was very sweet, and I didn't know at the time, but she was already suspecting what was wrong. But she told me, it's just a few white spots. Maybe it's indicative of your migraines. That can happen. But we're going to have you see a neurologist because, to check you out, because I still had the leg thing and the double vision. And I ended up getting like a horrid migraine, one that I've never had one like that since. I couldn't think. I couldn't drive. In fact, I think I had to have somebody pick me up. And the double vision, it just got worse. And I ended up having to get like an eye patch just so I could like see somewhat correctly out of the eye that was still working. Got in with the neurologist. He said, he was straightforward. He's like, I'm pretty sure you have multiple sclerosis. Let's get a lumbar puncture and see what that shows. So I get set up for the lumbar puncture with like in a week's time, I think. I go back in for the results. Sure enough, I have MS. I had multiple sclerosis. So I was shocked. I was just like, what? That's still a thing? Like, I was just, still young and in my nursing career. I didn't understand, like, why me? What happened? But, through all that confusion, I was like, well, being a nurse, got to do what I got to do, right? Get on medication. And, I dealt with that from 2012 up until 2023. And anybody with a chronic condition like that, whether it's lupus, MS, anything, you know, that we deal day in and day out. My personal things were fatigue. It was hard to get out of bed every day. I still dealt with the migraines, but that was a pre-MS thing in my early 20s that I dealt with. So, you know, I had the fatigue. I ended up having horrible body pain just all over. If you can think of the worst, you know how you feel when you start working out again and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sore. It's kind of like that, but deeper, if that makes sense, like deeper in the muscles. So I struggled with that. And let's see, I struggled with, a couple years into it, I ended up getting like cognitive difficulties. So I had bad recall of my words. I knew what I was trying to say, but it couldn't come out, if that makes sense. So I had short memory loss. I couldn't tell you what I had the day before for lunch, how I got to work, or and that's pretty dangerous, especially being a nurse. So I ended up having to give up work, go on disability, and it was just a struggle from, like I said, 2012 to 2023. And the things that would exacerbate the symptoms is heat and being overworked, like just doing too many things in a day. I had to use my energy sparingly. So that was just rough. It started affecting my relationships, my friendships, my family. It's very hard, especially when you live in a state with a hot climate most of the year, like me. The heat exacerbated it. So any time of year that the temperature started soaring past about 75 degrees Fahrenheit, man, I was out of commission. I couldn't do a thing. I was in bed a lot. I missed a lot of activities. Unless I was in a pool, like in water to keep my body temperature low, I couldn't go. I missed out on barbecues, on trips, on vacations. That took a toll on my mental health, really bad. During those years, it was bad, and I sympathize and I have compassion for you guys out there that are struggling with things like that, and your own symptoms, and whatever disease process you may be dealing with. But my purpose for doing this and even starting this podcast is I wanted to give hope to people out there. And even if it's not you personally, but maybe a sibling, another family member, a friend, a coworker, that healing happens and it can happen for you. It's not a fairy tale. It's not a thing of the past. Oh, back in the Bible days, maybe. No, it's today. It's every day. Healings all the time. And that's the purpose, again, of this podcast, because I want it to give hope. And I want people to see that whether it's a big miracle or a little one, they happen. I'm going to read as best I can, from my journal, kind of describe that night of what happened. I had been at a thing where I go all weekend. I met great people and, it was just great. I learned a lot. I don't like to use the word religious. I just don't like that word. But I do have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. He lives in my heart. And I met up with people who believe the same. And we had like a little weekend kind of teaching and just, in prayer, that kind of thing. So that's where I was this weekend, that weekend that I got healed. I'll go ahead and start reading. It's only a couple pages. It's not too long. In all my life, I've never witnessed a miracle. A miracle of healing occurred for me on Friday, October 21st, 2023. It was a hot day with a temperature of 96 degrees. Everyone in my life knows that affects my MS quite a bit. That night at dinner, I came to the realization that I hadn't gotten sick all day, and it was quite warm in that house where I was at. My body knew and felt this, yet I had no symptoms popping up. I wasn't fatigued. I didn't have cog fog. Nothing. I was amazed, in awe, and also a tad bit confused, because this had never happened before since I was diagnosed in 2012. Later that night, I prayed, and I gave thanks and praise to the Lord for such a wonderful day. As I got into my car, I decided to shuffle Rick Pino's Altar Sessions album on my way back to my hotel. What happened next is unexplainable in words, but I'm going to try. The first song that played over the speakers as I pulled out of the complex was the song You Restore Everything. Sorry, guys. Simultaneously, a very strong wave oh my goodness, sorry guys. Simultaneously, a very strong wave came over me, starting from the inside and radiating out. It was unlike anything I had ever felt or experienced before, and it's very hard to describe in words. I felt this wave from the very core of my being, deep into my soul. Now, mind you, I'm not an emotional person outwardly. Here as I'm crying. I rarely cry, or at least when people are near or can see. As I felt this wave and the song started, tears started pouring forth uncontrollably. And at the same time, God's presence, I could feel it all over. From my head to my toes and deep into my core. Next I heard, "You are healed." When I heard this, guys, it wasn't audible. And I don't know how to explain it. I just heard it. I heard it, and I was looking up at the stars. I was starting to pull out, and I even had to stop for a second. And it was such a surreal experience that I'm trying so hard to find the word. But I just heard it. But not with my ears, if that makes sense. So the tears wouldn't stop all the way back to my hotel. And it was a good 25 minute drive, I remember. In that moment, I felt such a deep love from God. And I thought to myself, how can God do such a miracle for little old me? But He most certainly did. The next day, our group went out exploring LBJ Library. And it was just as hot. Another 95-degree Fahrenheit plus day, guys. I didn't get sick. There wasn't any fatigue, brain fog, or pain in my body. I felt like a normal person again. I'd forgotten what that felt like, as it's been so many years since the MS diagnosis. God told me about 3 years ago, during my own prayer time, that I would be healed. I just didn't know how, when, where. This healing occurred 3 days ago now, which back in October, but when I wrote this, it was 3 days ago. And I'm still feeling vibrant and renewed thus far. I can't stop giving praise and thanks to my Jesus. I am undeserving, yet He still did a miracle in my life. I don't know what God has in store for me for the future, but I am ready. So yeah, guys, here we are, almost 7 months later, and I'm better than ever before. Still no symptoms, still no fatigue, no pain, no heat intolerance. A couple weeks ago, I went to an all-weekend type thing for a baseball tournament for my nephew. It was in the 90-degree weather, outside, humid, gross outside. Sat there for the 2 days in a row all day. Nothing. I was so happy. I remember looking over at my mom saying that I loved my life and that I was so happy that I could be there and that I'm still, I don't know if confused is the right word, but I'm still just so in awe of what God did for me. And especially as summertime rolls around and the temperatures, they're going up and I'm okay. I'm finally, getting back out there and doing things and enjoying my family and my friends. And I just want this to inspire you guys and to know that it happened for me and that they happen and they can still happen for you. I hope this inspired you guys, or at least made you think, or enjoyed, at the very least, hearing a true testimony, a true story. That's it, guys. I appreciate you guys for watching. I love you. Take care.